Don't record that. You didn't record that. Thank you. I guess it's all relative. What you think is real important at the time it's going on, and you think it's so bad or whatever, in the future it can get much worse. Okay. All right, the question was, number one, during the time you've been employed at the college, what are some of your most memorable moments? Okay. For the few that are still left, remember happy hours on a Friday afternoon. They were very fun. There were faculty, staff, and administrators who, at the end of the day, would just all meet for a nice little party. You'd stay in 30 minutes, an hour, 4 hours, but you'd have fun. You'd have a lot of fun. Springfest, Battle of the Deans. Dick Paradiso, pieing Marie Tyler in the face. Rex Evans dressed up as a pregnant nurse. That was a good one. Mike Bruno, teaching his students. He was such a good teacher. And to see the attention that the students would give him. They just really enjoyed his class. Pam Turner, Tom Kellum, doing comedy skits for everything going on at this college. Thurman London doing mini skits. Breaking everybody up, lessening the tensions that were going on at the moment. Larry Cason doing the hula at one of the Springfest. Let me see. Some of the highlights, let's see. Some of the most memorable things were when I went up in the helicopter and was shooting the campus and the campus area. Video recording at NASA. We had a co-op with NASA, and I got to go in a wind tunnel, one of the largest wind tunnels they had, and it was like 50 feet or more off of the ground, and seeing that one little hole in the base of it and looking down how far that was, seeing how they made the models that they tested in the wind tunnels and whatnot. It was quite of an experience. The model shops, how they made all the models, the artists that were there, the technicians that were there, some of them that we trained here at the school. Actually seeing and touching the parts that went into the space lab. They machined the parts. We had a co-op student that was there actually making the parts, and they were putting them all together in this large room, and I got to go up and hold that in my hand, the parts that actually held the space station together. That was quite an experience. Working with the police academy on this campus. For about 8 years we had the police academy out here, and that entailed all local police departments, the SWAT teams, occasionally the FBI, and I got to video record all their training exercises. Anything from going into a tear gas filled building to learning to rappel off the fire station in Newport News, and learned quite a few things, how to wiretap somebody's phone, any number of things. I've gotten a vicarious education in this, I screwed up. Sorry. Education from this school, mainly because I've been able to go in and video record or take pictures in almost every classroom, every division there is on this campus or has ever been on this campus. I've also been able to video record various other community organizations and whatnot. The police academy was based on this campus many years ago, and for about 8 years I video recorded all their crime scene investigations and FBI training and whatnot. Cough. All right. I got to work with the SWAT teams, and they taught me how to rappel. I got to go into a Nike site. I've gone up in planes, helicopters, a little bit of everything. I didn't get to go in a jet, but that was always something I wanted to do, that and being able to parachute, but I was never able quite to get that one pulled off. Let me see. Is that enough for that question? That's enough for that question. You now have an opportunity to say thank you to those you have worked with throughout the years. Who comes to mind and why? All right. Long page. There are so many people who've affected my life at this school. One of the first ones that come to mind are Zia Sever, who was an art department head back in the very early 1970s. Dr. Richard Peters, who was director of the Learning Resource Center, and Dr. Cannon, who was president of this college. If it wasn't for those three people, I wouldn't have had my job. I will be forever grateful to those people. Some of the other people who've had a large impact on my life, and I would never be able to thank them enough, would be, and there's a whole list. There's a whole list. Mr. London. One of the best bosses I ever had was Mr. London. Dr. Tom Barrett. He was Dean of Students out here. Dave Grant. He was in charge of student services at one time and then a counselor. Pam Turner, also a counselor. Tom Bond. Jerry Safko. Diane Martin. Eileen Schweitzer. All the ladies in the library. Bobby Wright. Faye Evans. Dick Dixon. Dave Fields. Nick Colton. Bob Templin. Curtis Sloan. And I know Mr. T's sitting over here and kind of shaking his head. Yep, he knew most of these people too. Zeke Broadley, Pat Broadley, Pearl Braxton, Judy Jones, Michelle Garrett, Debbie Belcher, Cher Wolf, Kincaid, Chief Amlin, DeWitt, Gary, all the guys in plant services. Cherie Auckland, Larry Lewis, Lisa Smith, Lisa Johnson, Beth Beasley, Mike Wisner, Hollis Pruitt, Vic Thompson, Tori Saunders, Belinda Baker, Michelle Chant, David Nolan. There are so many people at this school who've had an effect on me, and I'm so glad I got to know them. They've all made a lasting impression in my life. They've made me a better person. They have made me a better person. The award theme this year is working together. Is there a department or committee that you have served on where everyone came together and the end result was better than you could have imagined? Please explain. Working together. I've worked in audiovisual forever, it seems like. I was a teenager when I started this job, and we always worked together. We worked for every department that was out here. We worked with people. We worked with organizations. We helped them take their ideas and create something with it. Whether it was for a meeting, whether it was demonstrating how to mop a floor, or how to do a math problem, how to understand English, whatever it was. We worked with people to produce something, and we did it fairly well. That one. Don't sit in this chair because your butt will go to sleep. Wait a minute. I gotta wake my leg up, hang on. Okay. Pins and needles, okay. Okay. Look for the potential in people. Encourage the ones who say they're not sure they can do something. Those are usually the ones that'll come up with some of your best ideas, if you just give them a chance.
Okay. We're interviewing Dr. Victor Thompson. He's a professor of English here at Thomas Nelson Community College, and he's worked at the college for a total of 40 years, getting ready to retire this year. And so we want to ask a few questions regarding his employment at the college. The first question, Dr. Thompson, during the time you have been employed at the college, what are some of the most memorable moments that you've had?
Well, I've been here so long, I really have to put it in terms of eras. So we'll start with the early years. The early years are sort of like the first years of a marriage when you don't have much and everybody's kind of living together and we have no places for anything. And everybody at Thomas Nelson was essentially in one building. And library is where the business office is now. And I remember very fondly my office, which was really made for one person. And I shared it with Dr. Goldberg and a young speech teacher. And the chairs were so close, it was like Rubik's cubes. You know, you had to, Ron, I have to go out now, so could you move forward a few feet? And then Gail, you're going to have to move over to the left. And it might seem hard at first, but actually it was really a lot of fun dealing with very little. And I've always loved theater and performance, and maybe a professor of English, and always looking for chances and places to perform. And so in those days, we performed in room 100. And my students put on a play, No Exit. And I had a student named Ernesto Sampson who fit the role perfectly. He was actually a Spanish background, and they fit the role perfectly. And the students wanted someone to play the porter from hell, so they figured an English professor was perfect for the job. So I played the porter from hell, and we, of course, put on some Shakespeare there in room 100, and we did a play. A lot of theater in room 100. And so those are some of the memorable things, learning to do without, I think, mainly. And we had so little. And we also had tennis tournaments in those days. Every annual tennis tournament, a man named Zia Sever, he was maybe 3 feet tall, like Yosemite Sam there, but he was a terrific tennis player. And we had cookouts, we had gourmet clubs, and I think the fact that we're all together in a small area made us all departments. There was no real humanity so much as we were all fellow employees of Thomas Nelson Community College. And yeah, what wonderful early years, like the early years of a marriage. Yeah.
Yes.
But then you go to the middle years, and the middle years probably, we had new buildings and things got a little fancier. We had Bob Templin was one of the great presidents we had during that time period, and we have Wythe Hall, and then the old automotive shop then became the new theater. And so we began putting on plays and a little higher level of performances, and we had some wonderful colleagues there, but we're actually growing as a school. We're becoming, maturing as a school. And now, of course, we have the modern era, right? And I think one of my great moments as Thomas Nelson, as a great lover of theater and drama and music, was the Mary Christian Auditorium. And me, that was almost brought tears to my eyes to say we've come all the way from room 100 to the Mary Christian Auditorium, right? And now, I of course, had to look to the postmodern age next, right? I can't imagine what's going to happen next there, right?
Wow. Long time.
Yes.
Long time. How has teaching changed since you taught your first class, and what are some of the challenges that new faculty today face?
Okay, the old days, almost like the medieval university where the teacher was a dispenser of knowledge, up in the front of the room lecturing behind a lectern. But what's happened now, knowledge is so accessible. I have a student in one of my classes who brings her laptop, checks the facts. I give a fact and she says she'll check it on her laptop, she'll Google it and that sort of thing. So it seems obsolete simply to be a dispenser of knowledge. So it's more teaching students how to evaluate knowledge. And the facts are there and we have to work with them individually and think of them as guiding them, more of the mentor idea that a lot of information there, we simply need to show you how to use it. And so technology has absolutely revolutionized teaching. And also our students are used to visual, they're not used to simply hearing someone talk. So I think you have to do something with PowerPoint and visual and music, otherwise they're, yeah, and also I'm also teaching online. I'm certified for TOP and IDLE, right, which also creating the sense of community there, right? It's not always easy to do. It's like the days of radio before we had studio audiences. You know?
Right.
Are they laughing at the jokes? Yeah, we'll never know.
Okay. You now have an opportunity to say thank you to those who have worked with you throughout the years. Who comes to mind first and why?
Oh my gosh, all these years. Once again, I'll probably have to go era by era, right? And in the old days, I was hired by a man named Winston Adair, who was a former captain of the Navy, and he was absolutely a wonderful mentor, right? Very disciplined and yet very amiable, very much a gentleman. And I was hired by President Cannon, who was one of the first presidents of Thomas Nelson, I believe the second president. And we had some really first-rate faculty and leaders, Charles Bush and Chuck Bragg, and of course some of them are still here, like Dan Sims and
Yes.
some of the old days there. But yeah, we all worked together. We all had a common mission there. I think we had a wonderful camaraderie, right? And I think we all worked together to make this into a better place. I think that.
Well, that leads into my next question. Our service award theme this year is working together. That's our theme.
Yes.
Is there a department or a committee that you have served on where everyone came together and the end result was better than you even could have imagined?
Yes, there are probably two. One of them is the curriculum committee with Marty Zahn. We start with an agenda before the meeting starts. We have a pile of documents. We go through the documents. We go over them. We vote thumbs up, thumbs down.
Right.
An hour later, we've done something, right? The report actually goes through there, right? Astonishing thing for bureaucracy there. And the other is the honors program, working with, I started working with Michael Bruno in the early days of it, but I think that's come a long ways. With Dr. Barker, right, we've come a long ways, and we have wonderful meetings and wonderful programs, and so I think those two have really been wonderful experiences for me at Thomas Nelson. Yeah, so.
Good. And lastly, if you could look into the camera and speak to the new faculty that are hired at the college, what advice would you give them?
This is absolutely the best job in the world, right? And I've been other places, and I used to teach at the University of Cincinnati, and there's a man with an office near mine. He taught one class. He had 12 students. They paid him a full salary to teach one class, and it was in Shakespeare. And he was always late for his classes, and he never got his grades turned in on time. And I was thinking, I don't want to be like this guy, right? I want to do something, right? I'm very energetic. I want to do things. And so I just want to go to some place where there's a lot to do, right? And a real sense of mission and accomplishment. So I came here to Thomas Nelson. You have to be careful what you ask for, though, on the other hand, right? So instead of one class of 12 students, you find yourself with 5 classes and maybe 30 students. And there's also the committee work and working on reports and all of that. But it's worth it. I wouldn't change my life at Thomas Nelson for anything. And I wish you all well. Hope you all stay as long as I did. Put in your full 40 years before you're allowed to leave. Thank you.
Well, that sums it up. That's good. Those are the questions that we have to ask you, and we're going to call it out for each person's interview. So if you want a copy of that, he's the man.
Okay, he's the man. Okay, yeah, T's always the man. He's the yeah, you might give these presentations. Oh, how do I plug this thing in? T always shows up there. So you hit this button, hit that button, there you go.
That's right. It's like you
It's
go to marriage.
yeah, right.